Hello everyone and welcome to round 5 of the Oslo Esports Cup, where we are going to cover the first game of the match, Praggnanandhaa versus Hansen. Now, Prague has been having an excellent tournament. He started the first 3 days with absolute victories, then he ran into Magnus Carlsen, then he lost all 3 games they played, and now we are in round 5. So will Prague be able to bounce back, or will Eric have a say in this? It's a really a devastating attack. You are going to enjoy this game, and once again you will see how well these young players are able to prepare for a game against anyone, even though you're playing 4 games every day against a different opponent, and still you are able to prepare so well. So Prague has the white pieces, and he opens with d4. We have knight to f6, c4, g6, knight to c3, and we transpose into the Gruenfeld defense. Eric plays d5. We have c captures, knight captures, and now e4, challenging the knight here. We have knight captures, b captures, and bishop to g7. So this is very standard stuff. We've seen this many times. And now you are going to play something like a knight to f3 or rook to b1, or one of the many popular moves here. But Prague's queen to a4 is not extremely rare, but it is much rarer than the other continuations. And especially since Eric plays c6 here, this is even rarer. So this is obviously Prague's something that Prague prepared specifically for Eric here. We have knight to f3, castles, and now bishop to e2. And here, after b5 challenging the queen, we are still in the game that Eric Hansen already played with the black pieces last year against Arseny Nesterov, that he lost. But now, okay, the queen can be retreated to b3 or c2 or even d1. Prague plays queen to a3, and now we shift from that game. And now I believe that it is possible that Eric is in a completely new territory. However, the position is still a known one. Knight to d7 was played, castles, and now rook to e8, and it is only now as of move 11 that we have a completely new game. So let's see how they continue. We have bishop to g5. You can see that there's some pressure here on the e7 pawn. Also, you can't just advance it since the queen is on d8. Knight to b6 by Eric, now preparing to develop the light square bishop. Also, at some point you will start pushing that a pawn. Rook 8 to d1, and now queen to d6, offering a queen trade while developing. So Prague, of course, declines this. He does control more space at the moment. Queen to c1, and now bishop to e6, going after this a2 pawn. We have bishop to f4, attacking the queen, queen to d8, and now knight to e5. And here, what do? Do you just capture the pawn? Do you maybe first trade the bishop for knight? Bishop for knight, and then capture the pawn? If you go for something like this, okay, now you can, let's say, capture the pawn, but after something like f4, white's center is just beautiful, and f5 is coming. And even though you can play f6 and kind of trap white's dark square bishop on e5, we can still continue the attack. f5, for example, captures, and as it's a rapid game, white would have all the attack here. The queen can come to h6, the rook controls the f-file, you can capture on h7, the bishop can come to h5. So even though it's fine for black to play this for a rapid game, maybe it would be gambling a little bit too much. So there goes queen to c8 first. He guards the c6 pawn that was hanging, and now we have queen to c2. Developing the queen again, guarding the a2 pawn. We have f6, removing the knight from this powerful e5 square. Knight to d3, and now bishop back to f7. So at some point you are hoping to advance this pawn to e6 or e5, depending on what's possible, but Prague says most certainly not to e5. He plays e5 himself, and now we have knight to a4, preparing to further push the pawns and put constant pressure on this c3 pawn, but now just rook f to e1. We have a5, Eric pushes on the queen side, now comes bishop to g3. We have queen to e6, now putting more pressure on this a2 pawn, and Prague defends it with rook to d2. And here Eric plays g5. Now this is a very bold move. Maybe a simpler solution would be just to capture on a2. It looks like a silly move because, of course, white is guarding the a2 square twice, but it kind of does work. Captures, and captures. Now we're going to play captures, attack the rook and the bishop here, and after the rook moves anywhere, really, we're just going to capture the bishop here. After rook captures, so you're going to get this position where, yes, Prague is up a piece, but we have two connected protected pass pawns on the queen side. We can nicely put the rook on b8, support the pawns. The bishop could also support the pawns via the long diagonal. So definitely something to consider. But okay, g5 was played in the game. We have bishop to f1. Now the queen here is being x-rayed, so of course it's a very unpleasant to have it there. Queen to d5 is played, and now pawn to h4. g5 is now a target, and Pragg wants to open up the king side to start an attack against the black king. We have h6, h captures on g5, h captures, and now queen to c1, putting more pressure on black's king side. So if black ever captures, then the g5 pawn becomes very, very weak. So bishop to g6, and now f4. We open up the position here, and now it's very hard to keep the position closed. If you play something like g5, then f5 is coming, and that's very, very unpleasant. Now you kind of have to capture this, otherwise you're just allowing knight to f4 for free. So for example, captures knight to f4, attacks the queen. Queen will move somewhere, then we're going to play e6, and black's position is just so ugly. No one would willingly play this. So here we have bishop to h6 by Eric. F captures on g5, F captures on g5. And okay, now you get this position where black is sort of defended, but there is one move that wins the game completely for Pragg. So feel free to pause the video here and to win the game for Pragg while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting this completely paralyzing idea. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is of course pawn to e6. After this move, there is really nothing black can do. There's no way to get your pieces into the game, the rooks into the game. The e5 square now becomes available for the white knight, and everything just falls apart for black, as you'll see. So congratulations to everyone who spotted this positional idea. Here, rook to f8 was played by Eric. And now comes knight to e5, sort of saying, okay, you can capture on e6, but even if you go for this, we can just play knight captures on g6, queen captures, and now bishop d3, attack the queen, and after the queen moves somewhere, now we're just gonna pile up on this pawn here, rook d2, go after the pawn. After the pawn is defended, some like rook e6, and as we've said, there's really nothing for black to play here. So instead, after knight to e5, bishop to f5 was played, and now comes knight to f7, going after the h6 bishop here. Rook captures on f7. Eric decides to give a little something material to stop the attack, but now not even e captures on f6. Pragg plays the absolute strongest pawn to c4. He wants to open up this diagonal for his bishop, and now there is nothing for black to do here. Of course, if the pawn is captured, we're just gonna play e captures on f7, and it seems like you can defend. Queen captures, bishop captures. Here you have e6, but now just rook f2. And now again, you really don't have all that much. The other rook is coming to f2. We're going to put more pressure on the bishop. You just can't hold this. Or even better, you could play rook to f2. And now after the rook defends this with rook to e8, you can play rook e5. This could be even stronger. Now just with the simple threat of rook captures, there's no way to parry this. If king h7, we're going to play rook e captures on f5. And of course, there's nothing black can do here. You're going to have to give up the queen, but it is definitely not enough to keep playing this. We can play queen c2, attack the knight, attack the f5 pawn. We still have the bishop pair, so there's just no playing this. Another thing, after Pragg's c4, you could move the queen back, queen to d8, but this is also not going to work. We're just going to capture the rook and play rook f2, and that's it. You simply can't play this. If e6, you can even play the slap in the face move, rook captures on e6, and after king captures, queen e3, and again everything falls apart for black. Let's say king f6, queen e5 check, and now you're just gonna checkmate the black king. King f7, queen captures here, king g8, queen f7, and after you go here, bishop to e5 check. Once black gives up all of his pieces, then it will be checkmate. So instead, after c4, Eric decided, okay, it seems like I don't have any decent moves here. I'm gonna play queen captures on e6 and give up my queen for a rook and try to create some counterplay here, but now just rook captures on e6, bishop captures, and c captures on b5. Now saying that well, if you capture, then I'm just gonna play queen c6, attack this bishop. If this bishop moves, then this bishop is attacked. Also, your rook on a8 is hanging, so absolutely everything is hanging here. This would be, I mean, it's already resignable, but of course we're gonna play a few more moves. G4, attacking the rook and the queen here, but now just queen captures on c6. It's pretty much the same idea. Everything is hanging here. Bishop to e3 check, and now Pragg just played bishop to f2, and he was in this position on move 36 that Erik Hansen resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. What do you even play here? Once you capture the rook here, we're gonna capture, you can even capture the bishop. You don't even have to capture the rook. The position is just so bad for black that there is no playing this. You can't, I mean, you can capture on g4. You still have the bishop pair. Black's pieces are scattered all over the board. The black king is completely wide open. We can easily connect a few moves. Also, bishop to c4 is coming. That's, I mean, resigns on the spot. So Erik, of course, doesn't wait for any of this. After bishop to f2, he resigns, and a brilliant victory for Pragg in round 1 of their encounter. Game 2 ended in a draw, and again in game 3, Pragg with the white pieces achieved the victory. So again, he defeated Erik much like he did everyone in rounds 1, 2, and 3. So Pragg has a spectacular tournament. It's that one match against Magnus Carlsen that puts a bit of a stain on it, but still, if we check out the standings after 5 rounds, here we have it from Chess24. Round 5 standings of the Oslo Esports Cup. Pragg is leading with a score of 12 points, followed by Magnus with 9, Jan Krzysztof Duda and Jordan van Forees with 8 points, Liam Le with 7, Anish Giri with 6, Shahriar Mamdara with 5, and Erik Hansen with 3 points. So 2 more rounds to go. Can Pragg take it all the way, or will someone else be able to catch him? We'll see what happens, but this is a brilliant chess and absolutely fantastic to watch. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Always thank you for recommending me such wonderful games with great motives. I would like to thank Fred Eckerman, Joseph Virasuria, Robert Aratun, Alois Klosterhuber, and Michael McConnell for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. Really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. But basically, we will cover this event until it finishes. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.